Hey guys, so today's Sunday, and as you know, on Sundays I always talk about new makeup and things that I got a chance to test out over this past week or so. So I have a bunch of new things here and definitely have some thoughts. To be honest with you, I'm a little bit disappointed in most of the things in today's video. So I don't want this to be a total downer, but at the same time, I feel like it's important for you guys to see the positives as well as the negatives in case any of these you kind of had your eye on. Now, I'm not saying everything in this video is a total flop, but I feel like normally I like more things than I don't, and I think it was the reverse today. So let's go ahead and just jump right in and get started. And we'll start with this new palette from Sydney Grace, which is the Be Mine palette. So I love that they came out with something like for Valentine's Day. I love Sydney Grace. If you've been following my channel for a while, you know that I've done several videos on just like all the Sydney Grace singles that I have, but I feel like they don't do a lot of palettes. So when they do, it's kind of a big deal because buying singles can get really, really expensive. And as an indie brand, I feel like even their palettes are a little bit more on the expensive side. This one was $52, so not cheap, but the quality of their eyeshadows is 1000% worth it. So I just want to put that out there. If you like the color story of this, 100% worth buying. As always, it comes in two different versions. There's a light version and then a deeper one for deeper skin tones. So I do have the lighter option. And inside, we just have really beautiful neutrals, but also some color that's not super bold or bright. Like, I feel like if you're somebody like me who wears mostly neutrals, these are colors that you can mix with the neutrals very easily and just do a little bit of color, but you're never gonna get crazy, bold, colorful looks with this palette. So if you like more color, this probably isn't gonna be your thing, but like I said, if you like neutrals like I do, I think you'll really love the color story. I would say my one big criticism with this palette, and I have to kind of say that about all of their palettes except for Tiny Marvels because that one was a little bit different, but that one was way more colorful. But when it comes to like this palette, or for example, the Enduring Love, which I love the formula of, but I just never use it that much, I think it's just because it's a little bit too deep for me. Even though this is the light version of the palette, they put a lot of dark colors in here, and I don't typically wear smoky eyes very often. So I can really only see like two colors in here that I would wear all over my lid on a regular basis, and that would be this green shade up here and this pink one. Even this white, I don't think I would wear it all over my lid. I'd probably use it as like an inner corner highlight. But then you have like this deep purple right here, and then you have a bunch of shimmers on the bottom row, and they're just very, very dark. So when you look at the swatches, you'll see what I'm talking about. And I feel like you can mostly just create smoky eyes with this palette with just a couple of lighter looks. And that's the main reason that I was disappointed with this palette, because the formula is insane. It's so beautiful and so pigmented, yet incredibly easy to work with. And that's what I love about Sydney Grace. So I'll show you guys just quickly some live swatches of the shimmer shades so you can really like get a feel for what I'm talking about. You can see how in just one quick swipe, the pigmentation, the smoothness, they're not chunky, there's not like fallout crumbling everywhere. They're just stunning. And then you have the matte shades even. I mean, how often do you see a matte shade go on full pigment in one swipe like this? You really don't. Most of the time when I'm swatching a palette, I have to build up matte shades to really get this kind of color payoff. And with Sydney Grace, they just really deliver that pigment, yet at the same time, I find them incredibly easy to blend and work with. A formula like Natasha Denona, which is super pigmented as well, I find that when I try to use the mattes, they get very patchy. I have to sit there and blend forever, and Sydney Grace's don't do that. So that's really why they're one of my favorite eyeshadow formulas. So I am actually wearing this palette on my eyes today in the video. I basically just used the pink shades in the palette. I used this really light pink shade for my crease or transition color. Then I used this pink in the outer corner, and then I just put this shimmery pink on my lid. And it's really just a very like subtle, easy look. But as I was playing with it, that's kind of when I realized I was trying to think of what colors to use. And I thought, wow, I'm probably not going to use a lot of these deeper colors in the palette. So that got me kind of bummed out about it. And I feel like, again, it's going to be another Enduring Love palette, which is, like I said, one that I just really don't reach for that often, even though I love the formula. formula. For me personally, I'm much more likely to use my Sydney Gray singles because I have colors that I chose myself. And so they're ones that I know I'm going to use on a regular basis. So for me, this is just one more of their palettes that fell a little bit flat for me as far as the color story goes. As far as the formula goes though, it's amazing. So if you do like the colors, then it might be worth a buy for you. Next up, I had purchased the new Desert Sage collection from Profusion, and I really just couldn't resist this collection. It's so cute. I loved like the cactus and Southwest theme that it had going on. And I love when companies kind of step out and do things a little bit different and create cute little themes like this. So in the collection, we have a palette, a little brush set with a bag, and then a beauty sponge that comes in the cutest little cactus case. It's adorable. So let's just talk about this for a second. It comes in this really cute little case. It's kind of like a silicone, and it has holes all the way around it. So once you use your beauty sponge, you can just pop it right back in here and it'll dry very easily. You could either keep the lid open so that it dries faster, or you can close it up. But like I said, it does have holes all the way around it, so it's gonna get that air circulation. And the sponge is really nice, very soft. I actually like the shape of it too, because it has the smaller, more tapered tip and then the wider bottom for like large areas of your face. So I thought this was adorable. I had to get this. And then just really quickly, I also wanted to get this brush set because I love Profusion's brushes. Whenever anybody asks me to recommend a really affordable brush to use, I always tell them Profusion has the best, because unlike the Morphe brushes that I've tried, the Profusion ones do not shed. They're so soft, and just the shapes of them are very, very easy to use. They're not overly large, so they work really well for my hooded eyes. And speaking of hooded eyes, if you have them, this brush set is fantastic because these brushes are all very, very small. So you have one kind of larger fluffy crease brush, then you have a small detail crease brush, and then you have one that you can either pack shadow on your lid with in the outer corner, or you could like use it for liner or lining underneath your eyes. And what I absolutely loved about these, like the big crease brush just fit perfectly right in the socket of my eye. If you have smaller eyes, you don't have a lot of lid space, it's just the perfect size for that. And then this little one, I would just use like for the outer corner work and just make little circles with it. So, so easy. And this one, like I said, I would just do like liner with it. I go underneath my eyes, or again, just pack shadow on the outer corner. So I really liked these as well for hooded eyes. Definitely worth it. I'm kind of sad that there's only 3 of them. I kind of wish it was more, but anyway. Next we have the palette, and the palette has, how many shades are in here? 25 shades, so it's a pretty large palette, and inside the shades are kind of arranged in this flower pattern. Now, when I posted this on Instagram, I had a lot of people saying that it bugged them that the pan sizes weren't like a normal standard size, like squares or circles. And to be honest with you, that kind of bugs me too, especially because some of these are really, really tiny and difficult to get into, especially like if it's a shimmer shade and you apply them with your finger, it's hard to kind of get in there if they're too small. And also, not every shade has the same amount of product in it, so you're going to run out of some quicker than you're going to hit pan on others. And when I swatched this palette, I wasn't initially super impressed. I didn't feel like it swatched that well. I mean, it was okay, but I felt like some of the shimmer shades were a little bit crumbly and dry. Some of them swatched really beautifully. There is one glitter that's in the center of the palette that, you know, not really my thing. And it also was very sheer too. I had to keep going back and like building it up. So initially when I swatched it, I was kind of like, I know I'm not gonna like this palette. I kind of had that in my head. But then I actually used it one day and I had a really good experience actually. I thought that the matte shades were actually way more pigmented than I was expecting. I did use this little brush set to complete the look. So I'll show you quickly the colors that I used, and then I'll show you how the look came out. So I used this yellow in my crease. Then I used this orange shade for the outer corner, and then I put this green on the lid. So I kind of just used like these 3 right here in a row. And here's what it looked like. And I have to say, it's a little bit of a bolder look for me, but I kind of just wanted to play with colors since this palette is very colorful. I wanted to do sort of more of a deserty inspired look. And like I said, I was really surprised by the pigmentation of this, and I thought it blended really nicely. Sometimes things just don't swatch very well and then end up really surprising you. Other times things swatch beautifully and they end up looking terrible on your eyes. So I feel like that's one reason you really can't tell much from a swatch, and that's something that I've learned over the years. So all in all, I was actually pleasantly surprised by all the profusion things. I think the palette, while I'm not crazy about the layout, I think it performs way better than I was expecting, and it's really affordable, and also the brushes are awesome. Really like the sponge. I just think this is super cute. So yeah, I had a pretty good experience with all three of those. Next up, let's talk about this new Nars Light Reflecting Foundation. So I've heard nothing but rave reviews about this. Everybody's saying it's such a thin formula. It has a beautiful satiny finish. It looks so natural on your skin, yet gives amazing coverage. So I couldn't wait to try it because those all sound like things that I look for in a foundation. One thing I will say though is choosing a color was very difficult. Most of the shades looked very, very yellow, and a lot of them were sold out on both the Sephora and Ulta websites. So I actually ended up going to Kohl's because they have Sephora at Kohl's now, and they had all of the shades in stock. So when I looked at the shade chart, like the arm swatches on the models, I thought that the shade Vienna, as far as the light shades go, looked the coolest in tone. And the description of Vienna also said it's for light skin with cool undertones, which is me. So I thought, okay, it's going to be perfect, right? I get this home, I take this bottle out, and it looks so like yellowy orange. I couldn't believe it. I was so bummed because this is, to me, this is not cool. This is not cool toned. I'm actually wearing it today, so I think I do look a little bit warm as far as my skin, but normally I am a very cool toned person. I have a lot of pink in my skin. My mom is Irish, so we have like a lot of the red and pink going on. So yeah, I was just really, really bummed about this shade in particular, but I figured, okay, it's a thin, light formula. I'll be able to work with it. I'll just have to like blend it down my neck. And I have to say, it does really have a nice serum texture, very, very thin and lightweight, and it doesn't have any sparkle or glitter to the formula, but it has that little bit of luminosity, more of like a satin, very skin-like finish. So I was happy about that when I kind of played with it on my hand a little bit, but then I went to apply it. So I'll show you guys just quickly me applying it. I used a beauty blender, and I felt like for as thin of a formula it is, that it did have really good coverage. I wouldn't say it's full coverage by any means. It's probably like a solid medium, and that's typically as heavy as I'll go with a foundation these days, is medium coverage. Anything from light to medium is good. So I was very happy with the way that it covered everything. I think it definitely hid my dark spots pretty nicely, any kind of discoloration under my eyes, and also the redness around my nose area. So coverage wise, I didn't really have any complaints about this. So I'll show you guys just side by side how it covered. This is before I added concealer or anything like that. Now, once it sat on my skin for a little while, I didn't apply any other makeup. I just kind of let it sit and see what happened. And I really didn't like the way that it started settling into my skin. I started noticing that I could really see a lot of my pores. And I actually did apply a primer before this. I forgot to mention, I applied the L'Oreal Studio Secrets primer, which is a very pore smoothing primer. It's one of my favorites, and it's what I normally use under all my foundations. So that's why I wanted to test it with that. And even despite the primer, I just felt like my pores were becoming even more apparent, like as the foundation sat on my skin. And it just started to take on this very like makeup-y look. The pictures that you've seen were in natural lighting near the window, but here's what it looked like when I looked in the bathroom mirror. You can just see all my pores on my cheeks, on my chin. It just looks cakey and it's not sitting right. So this foundation proved to be disappointing all the way around for me. I was really expecting to love it, and on my particular skin, it just is not working. I'm sure it works for tons of people, but on my dry 44-year-old skin, it really just didn't look the best. So I'm so bummed about it. If you guys saw my last video where I talked about this foundation, the number 7 Lift and Illuminate, I was actually wondering if this might be a dupe for this one. And I have to say, I like the number 7 so much better. Both of them have a thin serum-like feel, but the number 7 one is just a little bit creamier and more moisturizing, and it doesn't look makeup-y on your face. It looks very natural. If you saw in my last video, I did show some close-ups, and this just sits really smoothly on my skin. It doesn't settle into fine lines or pores. Even when I don't wear primer, it still looks beautiful. I think the Nars might have slightly more coverage, but that's not really something that I mind. With this one, if there's any area that it doesn't cover as well, I just tap a little bit of concealer and I'm good. For me, it's much more important that the foundation looks good on my skin than coverage, because I can always add a little bit more if I have to. And another thing I love about the number 7 is that it comes in true cool undertones. This one is cool vanilla I'll show you guys just a side by side of it next to the Nars foundation so you can see the difference. Like, this is actually a cool toned foundation where the Nars one in comparison looks so yellow. I honestly don't know how they could say this is for cool toned skin because it's not. So that was the Nars foundation. I also picked up some things from the Laura Geller website. She has a new tinted moisturizer out called Better Than Bare, and also I got a new palette which is called the All Year Round 31 Baked Eyeshadows. And I got some of her lipsticks too. These are the Italian Marble lipsticks. I bought one of them over the summer and fell in love with this formula. I knew I needed to get more shades. And she had a coupon code for, I think it was like 40% off on her site at the time. That's why I ordered these. Unfortunately though, this order took like 3 weeks to get to me, and I'm not quite sure why it took so long. I kept going back. It said that my order shipped like 2 weeks ago, but every time I clicked on the status, it said that they hadn't given it over to the carrier yet. I don't know if it was just a fluke. I was about to contact them and see if maybe it had gone missing or something, but then I saw that the package was finally moving and I'm like, okay, it's finally gonna get here this week. But anyway, let's talk about each product really quick. Let's start with the Better Than Bare Tinted Moisturizer. So this claims to be an all-in-one tinted moisturizer with SPF that delivers a medium touch of color that glides on smoothly and dries quickly, resulting in a flawless, even skin tone. It has broad spectrum SPF 50 plus vitamins and antioxidants. It says that you can use it as foundation or before your foundation if you want a little bit of extra coverage, and then just obviously the SPF protection. And it does have a mix of both mineral and chemical sunscreen. So I just wanted to mention that as well in case some of you guys are sensitive to the chemical ones. And I got it in the shade Beige 200. They only have 5 shades available. It's supposed to be very sheer, so I guess that's their reasoning behind that. I didn't want to choose fair because usually the lightest option is a little too pale for me. Usually I'm like the second shade in, and I felt like the third shade was more of a medium skin tone, so I thought it would be safe with the 200, but unfortunately this is a little too dark for me, and it's also very, very yellow on my skin again. As I started applying it, I just felt like it was completely changing the color of my skin. So that was kind of strike number one with this. Now I have to say it goes on really nicely. It has a nice kind of satiny finish. It's not overly dewy or glowy. It doesn't have like a sticky feel to it. It does really sink right into your skin and disappear, which is nice. It also doesn't look dry or matte. It's just really that perfect skin-like finish. It just looks like your skin, but better. And I also love that it has the SPF in it. I feel like it's kind of a lighter version or like a tinted moisturizer version of something like the IT Cosmetics CC cream. So if that has a little too much coverage for you and you're just looking to kind of barely even out your skin tone and add the SPF, I think this might be a really good option for you. But as you guys can see just from the before and after, this pretty much did nothing as far as coverage. My face looks almost exactly the same, maybe just a little bit more yellow in tone, but I feel like it didn't hide the redness on my nose really at all. It didn't hide the dark spots on my cheeks, the sunspots. So if you're looking for coverage, this definitely isn't it. If you're looking for a really nice SPF, I think it's good for that. And that's probably how I'll continue to use it, is just put this on first as my SPF and then use another foundation on top of it, which they did say that you could do if you wanted to, because it is really that sheer. You could easily layer this, no problem. So I was a little bit disappointed in this product, mainly because of the color and also because I was hoping that it would be a product I could just wear by itself without having to layer another foundation on top. But it's probably almost better that way because the color isn't so great. So anyway, there's that. And then as far as the eyeshadow palette goes, if you've never used a baked eyeshadow formula before, it's kind of interesting. Baked eyeshadows start out as a cream and then they bake them so they harden, but you can easily wet these shadows and turn them right back into a cream again, and they don't get hard pan and they don't get all funky like some other pressed eyeshadows will. So they can be very versatile in that way, particularly the shimmer shades. And then when it comes to the mattes, you can also wet those if you want to turn it into like a liquid liner. Most of the time I don't wet the matte shades just because I want them to be dry, like for blending purposes. So looking at this palette, she has it kind of like alternating every other row, matte shades and then shimmer shades. And she has it laid out in sort of a unique way where she labels each row in the way that you're supposed to use it. So for the top row, we have your base shades that you would put like all over. The second row is inner corner highlights. The third row are lid shades, matte lid shades. Then the fourth row is called highlighter, or maybe like your shimmery lid shades. Then the fifth row is your crease colors, and these are all mattes. Then you have outer corner shimmer shades. One of them is actually more of a satin. And then the last row is liners, which are mattes. So it just kind of makes it really simple and foolproof and easy. You can just grab from one of those rows depending on what you're doing, or you don't have to follow it at all. I think it's really just a suggestion, but I'll show you guys some swatches of what this looks like. I had to break it up into two different sets, like shimmers and mattes, just because there's so many colors, they wouldn't fit on my arm. So let's start with the shimmer shades first. And I think these are beautiful. On the left-hand side, you have the outer corner, the deeper shimmer shades. Then the 5 in the middle are the eyeliner or the lid shimmer shades. And then the 5 to the right are the inner corner highlights. But like I said, you could easily mix and match them however you want. And then we have all of the matte shades. And as you can see, these are definitely a lot more sheer. Not so much the deeper colors, but certainly the mid-tones. I don't think they have as much like oomph or color payoff as a lot of other matte shades do, but you can easily build them up if you want a little bit more color payoff. I feel like they build really easily. So let me just show you guys a look that I did with this palette the other day. The first shade I started out with was one of the lid shades. It's kind of like a more mid-tone brown. And I applied this back and forth in my crease. And I felt like this blended really easily, but at the same time, it kind of went all over the place. I had trouble keeping it controlled because it's a little bit more on the powdery side, and I felt like I kind of blended a little higher than I wanted to go, and like I said, I just for some reason had a little trouble controlling it. Then for the outer corner, I took one of the deeper shades, like this really chocolatey brown, and this one actually was very, very pigmented going on, and almost so much so that I had a lot of trouble blending this one out as well. I felt like it looked really patchy on the outer corner of my eye, and no matter what I did, I just kept blending and blending and blending, and it just continued to look patchy, and if I added more, it kind of made the problem worse, and then as I blended it out, it would just get that patchy look again. I don't know, I just couldn't get this one to look good, unfortunately. Then I took this really beautiful, deep, almost like emerald green color for my lid. Even though it says it's for the outer corner, I wanted to do something a little bit more smoky, so I put this one all over my lid, and I did it dry first, and it was okay, but I wanted it to be amped up a little more, so then I spritzed my finger with some setting spray and applied it wet, and this shade really came to life. It's super, super beautiful. And then for the inner corner, I picked up on my Rephr pencil brush just this shade that looks almost like a yellowy green. It's so, so pretty, and I felt like it would go with the green eyeshadow look. So I just put that in the inner corner and blended it back a little bit into that green shade. And here's the final look. Honestly, I'm not super happy with it. I think just because it looks messy overall. I just had so much trouble with the matte shades in particular. I felt like the shimmer shades blended well, but the rest of it just kind of looks unblended, and I wasn't a fan of how it came out, sadly. But I will definitely keep playing with this palette and see if I can get those mattes to work in some other way. But yeah, this one was a little bit of a disappointment for me. And then when it comes to the lipsticks, these are the Italian Marble lipsticks. They basically have a marbled look to them, so there's a couple different colors sort of all swirled together. And the formula of these lipsticks I love so, so much. These feel like a tinted lip balm, but they have the pigmentation of a lipstick. So they're just the creamiest, smoothest formula. They feel so, so good on your lips. They make your lips look a little smoother. The only thing I will say though is they're not like a long wearing formula. You will need to reapply these, I think, throughout the day because they have more of that balmy feel. But anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at all the colors on my lips. So the first one I have is Berry Vanilla, and this one is more of a light cool tone pink. It's very, very pretty. I think this is going to be so beautiful going into like the spring and summertime. The next one I have is Berry Banana. This is the one I actually purchased first, and this one's more of like a nude color. It doesn't really add a ton of color to my lips, maybe just a little bit. And then the last shade is Peach Bellini. This is a little bit of a bolder shade for me. I don't normally wear darker colors, but even though this is a little bright, I don't feel like it's over the top or something I would feel uncomfortable wearing. And again, I love this reddish orange, like for the summertime. I feel like when you look really bronzy and tan, this color looks so pretty. It just gives a really nice pop. So I do really love this color as well. So overall, I felt like I was a little disappointed in the Laura Geller products. I love the lipstick, but I wasn't as impressed with the Better Than Bare tinted moisturizer or the eyeshadow palette. I felt like they were just okay, you know, like they're a little bit more on the expensive side. And when it comes to like the tinted moisturizer, I felt like the color was very off for me and it really didn't do anything as far as coverage goes. And the eyeshadow palette just wasn't the easiest to work with for me. So I don't know, for me, I wouldn't necessarily say that these are worth buying either. Next up, I got some new Hydra Melt lip masks from Sigma, and these are launching February 10th, so they're not quite out yet, but they're going to be launching this week. And I also do have a coupon code with Sigma. It's Jen Phelps. So if you decide to purchase anything there, you'll save 10%. And they sent me all 4 shades in the box. It says hydrating lip care so smooth it melts into your lips. It enriched with hyaluronic acid, vitamin E, jojoba oil, and shea butter. So they come in 4 different colors. They also come with little mini spatulas, but they also have a larger spatula too that you can buy for $11. And these I actually do really, really like. I think the formula is so beautiful. They have this really like melty texture that, like they said, it just kind of melts into your lips. It adds a ton of glossy shine. It feels very like thick and cushiony at the same time. So it really just adds that protective layer on your lips. I'm not a fan of lip products that just sink in and kind of disappear. I like to really feel it. I like a thicker, buttery texture a little bit more. They do have a little tiny hint of a scent. It's very, very mild. It's a fruity smell. I think it's like a strawberry. It's very, like I said, you hardly notice it at all. And it's not overly sweet, like it doesn't give me a headache or bother me or anything. So let's go ahead and take a look at all the colors on my lips. I decided to do a try on, even though I don't feel like these really show up all that much. I don't think you'll see a lot of difference between the different shades. But the first one up is Tint. And this one is just like a really light nude. I think it's really pretty. Like I said, though, I don't feel like it added a lot of color. Next up, we have Hush. This one looks like a very, very pale peach. I think this one looked, the most clear on my lips. I didn't really see this one show up at all. Then the next one is Tranquil. This one's also a peach, but it's a little bit darker than Hush. So I think this one did kind of add a little bit of something. And then the last one is All Heart, which is like a pinky nude. And this one, again, just really pretty too, but very, very sheer overall. So anyway, I do really like that formula. I've been using them this week, like putting them on at night before bed or just wearing them around the house. And they definitely do make your lips feel really smooth, really soft overall. So anyway, guys, that's all I have. I kind of just feel like this week was very blah in terms of all the products. I don't think anything was horrible or terrible, but I don't know. I don't feel really excited about any of these things. I think the products I had the most luck with were actually the Profusion items. I think those were really nice. I think the thing I probably liked the least was the Nars foundation. I just really did not like the way this sat on my skin. I think the Sydney Grace palette has a beautiful formula, but it's just a little too deep and smoky for my personal taste. And the Laura Geller stuff was very hit or miss. So yeah, I guess every week can't be super exciting. And like I said, I think it's just important for you guys to know the positives and the negatives when it comes to purchasing decisions. So I'd love to hear what you guys think down in the comments below of any of the products that I tried this week. Have you tried any of them? What are your thoughts? I would love to hear from you, especially if you maybe have a different skin type than me or a different skin tone. You might have had a different experience in general with this stuff. So that helps all of us out. Thank you guys so much for spending part of your Sunday here with me. As always, I appreciate it so much. And if you like this video, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you in my next video. Take care. Bye.